Good morning, everyone. We'd like to officially call this meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. I am Byron Amos, Chair of the Atlanta City Council Transportation Committee. I'd like to start with introducing my colleagues. To my far left is Councilmember Juan. They switched on me. Councilmember Hillis, Councilmember Overstreet, Councilmember Dozer, Faroki, and Councilmember Lewis. Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Agenda is adopted. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Thank you. We move on down the agenda to public comment. You will have 3 minutes. As always, I ask for you to remain respectful, direct your comments to the committee themselves. You have 3 minutes unless you have time devoted to you. First on our agenda would be Eric Jacobson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Eric Jacobson, and I'm the president of Capitol View Neighborhood Association and the parliamentarian for MPUX. I also served as the executive director of the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities for 30 years before I retired 2 years ago. We're here this morning to talk about sidewalks, more specifically broken and missing sidewalks in Southwest Atlanta. I believe that a welcoming community embraces neighbors knowing each other by name and waving as they walk by or roll by in an environment that's accessible to everyone, including those who use wheelchairs, walkers, or strollers. However, the built environment in my Capitol View is inaccessible because most streets have non-existent, cracked, or broken sidewalks in complete disrepair. This means people must walk in the streets to avoid tree roots that have broken through where sidewalks once existed, or roll in the grass because sidewalks are not in place. Most of us don't think about this until we have an accident, surgery, or a disability and discover our community is not physically accessible at all. Former Capitol View Neighborhood Association President and current MPUX Chairman Zach Adrianson recently had comprehensive back surgery and in fact is unable to be with us this morning because he's still recovering from that back surgery. Part of his recovery involves taking short walks using a walker. As he investigated his path forward, he discovered the difficulties of using a walker on streets with sidewalks either missing or in such bad shape that he needed to roll in the streets. The risk is frightening, considering there have been 9 pedestrian-related deaths in District 12 during the last year, and several people, including somebody yesterday, were hit by cars at the intersection of Dill and Aileen. Capitol View Neighborhood Association believes our tax dollars should be used to make our neighborhoods safer and more physically accessible. We've been told repeatedly that there is no money for sidewalks. Yet, you recently approved borrowing $120 million to improve downtown streets for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Granted, $5 million will be used for sidewalks and to meet various Americans with Disabilities accessibility standards. While the city should be applauded for making downtown more accessible for people with disabilities, many of the neighborhoods where those same folks live full-time remain inaccessible because of missing or crumbling infrastructure. If we really want this to be a world-class city, we should have accessible communities where neighbors can visit neighbors without rolling into the streets. Therefore, we ask the city to consider passing a bond package to increase discretionary funding for sidewalks. We believe these funds will help make Atlanta accessible to all people and to help make sure that my friends who use wheelchairs can come visit me without risking their lives. I thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Next on the list is Ali Sudholt.
Hi, my name's Allie Sudholt, and I am a resident of MPUX, and I've lived in Capitol View for the last 4 years. When I moved in, one of the first things I noticed was the lack of sidewalks. I attempted to help with some of that remediation myself and ended up fully covered in poison ivy. When I reached out to the city for support getting some of the sidewalks repaired and cleared, the cases were closed without any actual resolution. I think it is incredibly unjust that sidewalks in Atlanta are only for those that can afford them. Our neighborhood has very mixed income and also mixed mobility. Since 2023, I have had a daughter, and so now sidewalks have become even more personal to me because as she begins to walk, learn to ride a bike, run, there's nowhere safe for her to do it. In fact, yesterday we walked to Perkerson Park to the playground, and there's not a sidewalk to get to the playground. We had to share the street with cars. So it's very, very personal to me on that level. But then I also think back to the history of redlining in the United States of America and how that impact is still hitting us today. And I think it's completely ridiculous that that impact is still hitting Capitol View, MPUX, and many of our city neighborhoods. So I'm here today asking that the city invests in sidewalks for everybody to ensure equality, justice, and equity. That's all.
Thank you. Next on our list is Brother Muhammad, and I see one person have yield time to you, which will give you a total of 6 minutes.
I am that I am. Brother Anthony Muhammad. I do not believe in religion. I do not accept in your scriptures from Genesis to Revelation none of those characters, as it has been said in the ancient ancestry. Not one person in your scripture was born from a woman's womb. I want to make this perfectly clear today, Mr. Amos, you, Mr. Varoki. I live in the southwest side, been here, this Overstreet district. 30 years, Tail Road, southwest of County Line, had not been paid. We had Mr. Solomon make some comments last time he gave his presentation. It was said by members of the council, millions and millions of dollars continue to be given to North Proctor Creek area, Howard Mill area, Fall Road area, even in the southwest side where I live at, Cascade area, Benjamin Mays area. But anything south of Camerton Road, you don't want to touch that. Do you remember when I said that, you know, we play this democracy, but we live in a republic. A republic supposed to represent the people interests, their agenda. That's what a public do. We select the person, that person go Miss Overstreet and speak up for us. We don't have selected peoples in government. Miss Kamala Harris selected. She wasn't nominated from the party to be the initial person. But let me tell you why I talk about this, because I have Miss Queen Elizabeth. Now we're going to have King Charles sitting up on this pyramid, Crown Council 13, the Committee of 300. These are the world ones that control money, 90% of the wealth of the earth. And they have the government institutions. They have all of this to control the interests of the people. You got the powerful sub-family, the Trilateral Committee. You got the Beersbury Group. You got the World Financial Controllers, the bankers. You got the World Resources Controllers, want to give you these credit cards and give you all that opportunity to have debt. But the World Population Control is the religion institution, the education institution, the media, and of course, will have you the police and the military. But the population at the bottom they call population research, debt, slavery, that's the people. You got the Caucasian and the dog people suffering today. Under Miss Kamala Harris, look what they did in South Carolina, North Carolina, down in Florida. Didn't even have monies to even put out to help the people. But this is the Democratic Party. Right here in Atlanta, most of you Democrats, I've been coming down for 2 years, Mr. Faroka, when you were the chairman of the committee of this transportation. And you didn't act on it at all to get no help to try to give resolution to the striping of the street. Your representative Mark supposed to gave y'all some information I had copied today. Talked to Miss Carter Smith. She said, let me talk with you. Let me give you some information what I think. I don't need to know what she think. I need to know, Miss Overstreet, you, Mr. Amos, need to find a way to correct the problem. We get work in the southwest side half as great, which got down by Trailway. To fix the streets with all this good material, but when it comes to our interests, you don't even do it. Mark, I asked you to give it to him before I got started. Let me say this very clear. I'm tired of just playing against us. November the 23rd, you will have a brother that I would call, that we thought loved us quite well, with John F. Kennedy. He sent some people down to Alabama just before they blow their brains up, told them, do right by them people at the institution of college. Let them dark people in school. Mr. George Wallace. And if you don't let them in, I'm going to nationalize your National Guard. What did George Wallace do? He did what most of these Caucasians that want to be against justice, fairness, and equality. He submitted. But you are the 21st century. You millennials, they call you. You Negroes today that don't want to speak up for your people. Come out of district where you don't even have no one representing the interest to want to go vote for you. 25,000 people, you may get 500 to vote. But I'm coming down here to tell you I don't have enough. I've been coming down here begging Mr. Amos. I think it needs to be looked into. I give you documentation. I give you the documentation saying we hadn't had no work in 1994 on Tail Road. Now I had the information shared with me by Mr. Solomon that he's going to have somebody out there to put some striping. I can't get some striping on some streets in my neighborhood. But you're going to come down here and hear people talk about it. Most of the time I hear you talk about things, you don't make comments when somebody this might, but when I watch these videos, you can't wait to answer the people. Yes, I got your email. Yes, I'm going to look into it. Come back up and talk some more. But Brother Muhammad come down here to treat me like I'm a runaway slave. Oh, he just lied. He just going to be ignorant. You can call me all those attributes. But I'm standing for people in my community that think it's time to get some justice, some fairness, some equality. And I want to support these young people that I see here today. These young people look like me and other people of the same family tree of the earth. Stand up for your people. You got to represent Mr. Antonio Lewis. One brother in my last 10 years. You hear me? 72. Standing up more than anybody I ever known. Put his life on the line to stand and tell the truth for the benefit to elevate the interest for the whole of Atlanta. And the rest of them Negroes sit there and just wonder who next can I don't have to listen to. Some of them do that, but they have a potential to not be in agreement with my brother. But I'm going to ask you today, if my time is over with, you got a comment from me? I want to know. You're going to ask Mr. Solomon, tell Miss Carter Smith, don't call me and tell me what I think we're going to do for you. Do what we're told. I talked with you, brother. You said I'm going to look into it. Keith told me he was going to have somebody to look into it. But she's going to call me and tell me, I want you to hear what I have to say. But I'm going to thank you for allowing me to talk. I'm going to set myself down and get up out of here.
Thanks, sir. Next.
Mr. Hotel, Assalamu alaikum. I say.
Thank you. Next, we have on our list actually signed up as the union name, but is there a representative for the Unite Here Local 23 that's willing to speak? And ma'am, what is your name so I can write it down?
It's Henry Lynn Phillips.
Ms. Phillips, thank you. Okay.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Henry Lynn Phillips. I work for Delaware North at the Atlanta Airport. I work full-time as a utility worker. I'm a member of my union, Unite Local Here 23. My co-workers and I are bargaining for a new contract. We need raises. I'm getting paid $16 an hour after nearly 3 years with the company. I live in the Fairburn and Gordon complex. I have a market rate rent that's going up from $9.79 a month to $1,009 starting November. I'm sure you know about the Fairburn and Gordon apartments. It's not a healthy place to live. I would love to move someplace that was in good condition where I could be more comfortable, but I can't afford to move on the wage. Delaware North is owned by a billionaire family, but workers like me aren't making a living wage. We also need a pension. I'm 56 years old. I would like to retire in another 10 years or so. to have some money in a pension by the time I'm ready to retire. That will make it possible for me to retire and live safely and comfortably. We're asking that you support us by telling Delaware North that the workers need a fair contract now. We can't wait months for a new contract. We need raises and better benefits now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have on the list Adrian Proler.
Hello, council members. I know some of you, and some of you may remember me, but I am a community health worker. And so my job involves looking at health equity and health disparities across the city, across the state, across the world. And so I'm here today to talk about Sidewalk and our policy and how we can establish policies that bring equity to sidewalks, which I believe sidewalks are one part of health equity, right? You being able to have safe, healthy places to be outside go very far in with regard to disparity. So I would like to ask you to look at not only just sidewalks, but crosswalks and pedestrian safety so that we can make Atlanta a safer place for people outside of their cars. One study that I saw, the Annie Casey Foundation put out a study that had a chart on it that showed where people don't have cars. And MPUX, where I live, MPUV, both had, and this is not super recent, so I'd love to see what the numbers are now, but 33 to 38% of the people in NPUX and V don't have a car, and a much larger percentage were one-car families. So having safe places to walk, especially safe places to get to transit, to mass transit, safe routes to schools for our kids, for our youth, and a safe route to get. I'm very lucky and I live right near the Beltline, but the hardest part for me to get to the Beltline is maneuvering the sidewalk to get there. I'm 64 years old. Last month I turned 64, and I'm scared to death that if I fall on some of these sidewalks that are crazy, or my other option is to go in the street. It's scary. It's scary to me that because if I fall and break a bone, break a hip, I'm not as young as I used to be. So I just ask you please to really look at policies for that really promote equity and look at it in a very thoughtful, strategic way so that it's not, divided evenly among all the council members, but where it's given where it would do the most good. Look at the high injury networks. Consult with Propel ATL. Look at where people live who don't have cars. So please be strategic and thoughtful, and I really appreciate your representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
And as you all see, a lot of folks from District 12 are talking about sidewalks. I know I've been extremely loud talking about ways we can bring some equity into the city of Atlanta. We have students here from South Atlanta here today who don't have sidewalk when they walk to school. This past weekend, we did a 5K from Jonesboro Road to Hutchins Road, and we had to cross the street over a main road a few times because there were missing chunks of sidewalks in state roads and city roads. And so I am truly standing in solidarity with you on this. If there's anything I could do, I'm fighting as much as I can to get as much funding to the south side. When you talk about sidewalk in your portion of the district, when you go a little bit further, it's non-existent. It's non-existent. And so, it's a real thing in my area, and it's a fight that's why I ran for office, because I knew they forgot about us. And so we're fighting to go get us some stuff. But thank you, Chair, for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next on the list is Dr. Dewan Robinson. See, two people have yield time to you, 9 minutes.
Good morning. One thing I want to piggyback on with the local union is that when they're talking about Delaware North is not treating them right. So I don't want council being let off the hook with this because council approved airport concession contracts. And Delaware North is the biggest, if not one of the biggest. They're the biggest. So I don't want anybody on council today saying that they don't have any interference with the airport because you guys award Delaware North contracts. And before they're awarded any other contract, I would hope that you sit down with the local union and the workers and talk about how they're being treated before we sign off on those multi-million-dollar contracts we keep giving Delaware North. Two things that have come across my desk that I'm very displeased of. We have a high-level transportation deputy that is in bed with a former City of Atlanta employee that was caught up in the federal indictment in the City of Atlanta. Name is Cotina Alexander. Offline, I will give you this young man's name. He's sitting in this room today. But out of respect for you, Mr. Amos, because it's your transportation committee, I didn't come to you with this first. I'm gonna give you I will give you the information offline. You guys have been signing off on giving contracts to Cotina Alexander Company from this deputy that is sitting here today. I don't like that. And it's disrespectful to you and the mayor's office that we are doing this under the table. Second thing, and I thought about this long enough, and no disrespect to you, Mr. Overstreet and Mr. Hillis, but I just think about when President Shipman put you guys on this committee. I think for you, and all due respect, it put you at a disadvantage when we have to speak to the airport. When you have people like Mr. Michael Smith, former Delta employees, and you're a Delta retiree, it puts you in an uncomfortable situation because speaking out against them could mess with your pension. I don't think you should be on the board if we can't be fair to go against it. I think it puts you in a unfair situation. If you say not, okay. I just think we need to start looking at those things. I don't like the fact that Mr. Dustin Hillis, chief of staff, husband, is a high-level DOT employee. It puts you in an uncompromising situation. Puts transportation in a spot that always have to do what you ask them to do when other councilmen don't get their stuff, but you can get yours, I think, because your chief of staff husband is a high-level DOT worker and transportation kind of adhere to some of your demands. I don't think that's fair because I'm born and raised, still live in District 9, and there's a lot of spots over there that is not being taken care of, but Dustin Dollars is being spent where Dustin Dollar live. I don't like that. And when it comes to the airport, I don't know if you guys seen the report. I think we're at now about 122 cars, Mr. Farouk, that's been broken into out there. They want to sweep it under the rug and I want to let you guys. This is a real issue. People are going and traveling and coming back and their cars are missing. And the airport don't tell you guys that they come down here. Everything is fine. Look at these graphs. Here's what we're doing. So we now know that we're at the bottom of customer service in the country. All these cars are being broken into. I think I missed the last meeting where we had the young folks down here that are not being paid from the internship program the mayor put in place. I mean, our airport is a mess. It's a mess. We drill martyr and we grill martyr to the core when they're here, but we dare not to ask these airport officials nothing about what I'm saying, what you're reading, because I'm reading the reports. It's not Dewan Robinson speaking. I'm reading the reports that most of you get, and we still won't ask them in front of the world what is going on out there. Can all the young people in here, can y'all please stand up for me, please? I want to then say this to you, Mr. Antonio Lewis. I don't care what went on with you in the news, what they done reported. This the reason why you ran, man. Don't give up. Don't waver. Strengthen. Get it. These are the people that you represent. This is why you ran right here. You told me this years ago, this is why you were running. So no matter what's going on, this is why you're running, and the seniors that you represent, and your diverse community is why you running, and you continue to run. Don't faint, don't waver. You guys can have a seat. You always say that God say, well done, I'm good and faithful servant. But let me tell you something in the Bible. I want you to lead with my faith, but you know what God said? Christ said, I no longer call you servant. A servant knows not his master plans. I call you friend. So understand that God call us friend, not a servant. Servant don't know the business of the master, but a friend knows it all, right? And so I want to leave you with that, because it's very disturbing that we have a high-level airport deputy, ADOT deputy that works for the city of Atlanta, sneaking doing contracts with Cotina Alexander, that was let go as a commissioner upstairs, and we still doing business with her under the table. I think it's disrespectful to all of you up here, because you're signing off on it, you're voting on it, not knowing what's going on, and I think it's disrespectful because I see most of you guys up here are very honest and transparent, and it's disrespectful because it's happening under your watch. I'm done. Ms. Overstreet, I'm sure you want to address me. I see you waiting to speak.
Thank you, sir. That actually brings us to the end of our public comment session. I do say I have a colleague want to speak. Ms. Overstreet, Councilwoman Overstreet.
Yes, Dr. Robertson, I don't agree with you. My pension is not causing any type of conflict in any way. Delta Air, my 20 years of service secured that for me. It has absolutely nothing to do with my role as a city council member. Also, those pensions are a federal contract between the company and the actual federal government, and it will be administered in a proper way. It has no municipal standings in any way. So they are way different. They don't touch. They don't have anything to do with the other. So my reason for being on council and enjoying my favorite committee on council is of transportation is about making sure that we do have sidewalks in Southwest Atlanta, because we didn't in many places. And since my tenure here at City Council, we have many new sidewalks in Southwest Atlanta, and many more coming, slow but sure, for sure. And it's about having green spaces and making sure that people are driving safely and that we're always elevating where we are, beautification included. So it has nothing to do with my pension, ever.
Well, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about when it's time to speak out against Delta and the airport is why I say
Excuse me.
so
what I'm
Let's not go back and
uncompromising
forth.
situation.
Let her finish.
So what I'm saying,
Well, she's speaking to
Is my
a situation that I
retirement-
didn't bring up, though.
my
not talking about
retirement
this.
from Delta Airlines has nothing to do with City Council. Absolutely nothing. I don't have a problem speaking about anything that anyone's doing wrong anywhere. I never have, and I won't start today.
I didn't say you did. I said I think it put you so you can. So I'm not wrong, because I said I think it put you in an uncompromising situation.
It doesn't.
I didn't say it, and I respect that.
Yeah, not at
I respect
all.
that.
I don't feel
That's why I said before. I said
uncomfortable
with all due respect.
Okay.
I said I think
Yeah.
it does. I did not accuse you of that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Okay, and I respect that.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis.
And Chair, I heard him talk about Delaware North and Cotina Alexander. And I want to know if we can get a one-pager or we can get some information from the airport eventually about that before the next committee meeting.
Okay, that brings us to the end of public comment, which takes us to our consent agenda, ordinance for first reading.
Item number 1, 24-01602, an ordinance by Transportation Committee amending the fiscal year 2025 Airport Revenue Fund budget and Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by transferring to and from appropriations the amount of $5,618,000.00 to the Airport Revenue Fund and $4,100,000 $5,000.00 to the Airport Renewal and Extension Fund to provide funding for various initiatives and projects at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and for other purposes. Item number 2, 24-01603, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to authorize the mayor or his designee to accept grant funding from the United States Department of Transportation fiscal year 2023 Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant Program to amend the fiscal year 2025 intergovernmental grant fund budget by adding 2 appropriations and anticipations and appropriations in an amount not to exceed $57,645,161.00 to increase the budget amount authorized by United States Department of Transportation for the implementation of the Stitch, capping 175/85 in downtown Atlanta project to enter into any necessary grant agreements for grant acceptance and participation and for other purposes. Item number 3, 24-01604, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary for the additional acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Central Avenue Bridge Replacement Project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interest, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney, in the event negotiations are unsuccessful, to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of taking method in the official code of Georgia, section 32-3-1 et sequitur, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work will be and payments for property interest to be paid for account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
We do have Councilmember Dozier like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question not question, but comment for the department. It's a first read item. I recognize that, so there's not going to be discussion or vote today. But with regards to the Central Avenue Bridge replacement, if someone from the team can reach out to me or my office just with some 5 Ws, what the plan is, what the timeline is looking like, just so that we can start communicating with the community as early as possible. So you don't have to have the information from me now, Commissioner, just offline, and we can talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinance for second reading.
Item number 4, 24-01563, an ordinance by Transportation Committee waiving Part 2, Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 7, Section 2-1292, Subsection E of the Atlanta City Code, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute the third amendment to the agreement listed herein for the DeKalb Avenue safety improvements with Matthews Kelly Joint Venture to add funding in an amount not to exceed $128,584.28 and to ratify payment for work performed to complete emergency repairs on Cheshire Bridge Road. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion has been made. I second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, item number 5, 24-01564, an ordinance by Transportation Committee waiving Section 2-1187 of the City Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into Amendment Number 2 to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period up to 6 months, effective February 28, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $10,250,000.00, and to recognize a change of control in name of the vendor, VGS2MATL Joint Venture, under FC 10278, Fuel Storage Facility and Fueling Facility Operations at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote. Oh, we have a speaker. I'm sorry. Councilmember Juan.
All right, I'm hoping there's someone from maybe procurement here for this one. I just want to confirm if the reason why we're waiving procurement code is simply because of the retroactive status, or is it anything to do with additional scope or the funding? And I also need an update on why we're going to month. So whoever can answer that for me. would be great. No, this is number 5. No. You voted yes. You voted yes. Anyone? Good morning.
Aaron Davis, Airport Senior Director. I didn't get a chance to hear your question. If you could repeat it.
Sure. First question is, we are waiving the procurement code to do this. I want to confirm that it's simply because it's retroactive and not because of any expansion of scope or funding.
Okay. No, it is not an expansion of scope or funding. It is an extension to ensure that we provide the O&M services required.
Okay. So we're waiving the code. You didn't answer my question. We're waiving the code. Why? Because it's a retroactive? I just need a confirmation of that.
So that is a procurement question.
And while we're struggling to answer this question, could someone call your office and get your chief of procurement up here, please, for the city of Atlanta?
I mean, and for procurement too, the reason we are going to a month on this, so that signals to me that there's a procurement situation on here, so I'd like to understand that as well. So, Mr. Chair, I wonder if, well, sorry, I see someone coming up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Courtney Hunt, Director of Administration from the Department of Procurement. Your question again, please, I'm sorry.
All right, once more with feeling. We are waiving the procurement code on this legislation. Just want to understand why.
It is my understanding, based on the legislation that you had introduced regarding change orders, amendments, and other information, that it was to be submitted as an ordinance. In this case, it is my understanding that the code is being waived because the action is retroactive and they're adding funding.
Okay. All right, thank you. Second question is, we're going to a month on this, and that signals to me that means, are we going back out for procurement on it to replace it, or why is it month to month?
Yes, sir. That is the reason.
And
Yes,
what's
sir.
the status? Have we already gone out with the RFP?
No, sir, we have not. That prep package is pending, and we're working closely with the user agency to ensure that it happens swiftly.
Okay. And I mean, if we haven't even gone out with the RFP, is 6 months going to be enough time?
Yes, sir, it will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There was a motion on the floor made and second. Any more comments? Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Closed.
Item is favorable, 5 yeas, 1 nay. Next item.
Next item is item number 6, 2401565, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to provide alternative funding for certain contracts supporting Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport by replacing interim funding sources with permanent funding from Airport General Revenue Bond Series listed herein in an amount not to exceed $19,812,303.97 and for other purposes.
Second. Item is made in second. Motion has been made in second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. All council members, please vote. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. I didn't know he wanted to speak, but okay. Next item.
Next item is item number 7, 2401566, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the City of Atlanta to waive the procurement source selection provisions of Division 4 of Chapter 2, Article 10 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to revive and authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the first renewal option for contract agreement RFP-S-1210 0120 ATL Customer Experience Program with ABM All-in-One Security Services Incorporated on behalf of the Department of Aviation at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for a term of 2 years, retroactive to the effective date of June 29, 2024 through June 28, 2026, in an amount not to exceed $25,000,000. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
I have one of my colleagues wanting to speak, Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering from either an airport representative or procurement what they've been doing for the last 4 months. I mean, this goes back 4 months, retroactive for 4 months. So what? Why are we just now seeing this?
Good morning, Scott Carr. I'm the Assistant General Manager for the Commercial Management Department at the Department of Aviation. So we were working in good faith with our vendor as well as with our airline partners to bring this to you on time. As part of that process, we got into a discussion regarding divestment at the TSA security checkpoint and what the staffing levels or what the appropriate staffing levels should be in supplementing that service to the traveling public. As a part of that, that went on a little bit longer than we anticipated, and so that's what resulted in the delay. With that said, we understand that contracts need to be renewed on time and that this should be an exception and certainly not the normal course of business.
So what was the result of that negotiation? What was the
so we actually
staff level, and if so, how much?
So as passenger traffic continues to increase at the airport, we're going to be going from approximately 170 total FTEs up to 230. And again, that's to account for the, up to 209 under this with 45 individuals per shift. And so that'll address the increase in staff, or the increase in passenger traffic that we're seeing at the airport.
And when will we see that increase? Is that over the life of the contract or immediate or 6
It's immediate.
months, or?
They've already staffed up.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have a question. Just for clarification, these are the green vest individuals that's there at the checkpoints, correct?
That is correct.
And if my memory serves me right, this part of this joint venture also holds a piece of the security contract at the airport as well. And so those officers have nothing to do with the green vest.
That's correct. 2 separate agreements.
And the last piece, how did our negotiations with TSA affect this coming before us?
So TSA has, as we continue to increase staffing levels at the airport under this contract, this actually frees up some of those transportation security officers to open up additional lanes to make sure that we have the appropriate throughput for passengers during peak hours.
My struggle is if this contract is based off an increase of pedestrian traveler increase, it's going to increase or not increase whether TSA officers are there or not. So what was the holdup in bringing this to us?
So again, we were working with our airline partners. This is a directly reimbursable agreement back to them. So the discussion was what is the appropriate number of staff members should be providing divestment at the TSA security checkpoint. That's where folks are assisting passengers with reminding them to take all of the metal out of their pockets and helping them through that security process. The real question is to what level do we want to supplement TSA staffing to assist with that process?
Thank you. Motion has been made to approve. Is there a second? Motion has been made to second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 8, 2401576, an ordinance by Councilmember Mary Norwood on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to amend the project management agreement with the Buckhead Community Improvement District for the Mount Parnan Road Resurfacing and Safety Improvement Project for the purpose of amending the BCID scope of work and for other purposes.
Councilwoman Norwood.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. This is just like West Paces Ferry, where there was a estimate for the work to be done on West Paces, which was much more than what the BCID actually needed to spend. So we were able to get an additional connecting street to be paved because it was part of that. It was connecting to the street. So this is Mount Perrin, and it connects to West Conway. West Conway is trashed, if any of y'all have ridden it lately. And so this is the BCID asking to pave that as an extension of the Mount Perrin contract, just the way we did with the other one.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. That takes us out of our ordinance for second reading into resolutions.
First up is item number 9, 24R4310. Mr. Chair, there is a request to amend this item, to make a motion to amend this item.
Motion to amend. Motion is made second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. The amendment makes minor changes to the language. The amended caption is a resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis as amended by Transportation Committee requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Annie Street Northwest between Marietta Road Northwest and Alma Street Northwest in order to reduce speeding and for other purposes.
Second. Motion is made. Councilmember Hillis, second by myself. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Can all council members please vote? Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 10, 24R442.
I'm sorry. We got a council member who would like to speak.
Just a request of DOT, since I know you were very upset I wasn't at your quarterly presentation last meeting, but given that speed tables came up, can I just please request that we get a list of the pending approved tables and an estimated timeline? I know there's a backlog. Or do you know immediately where we are with, or do we have a current contract? Is it in procurement? What's the status of a current speed table contract? Yep. And then again, just requesting that we get a list and an estimated time frame of when all of these that have been approved will be done.
Solomon Cavins, ATL DOT Commissioner. We submitted legislation 2 cycles back, if I'm not mistaken, for additional funds to be added for that contract, and that was awarded, if I'm not mistaken. But I can get a list of the speed tables and where they are in terms of each district, whereby we do some in-house and we contract most of them. But I'll get that list to council.
And then also requesting on that list, I know some council members put them on there without speed studies. I'm generally not one of these. This is one that DOT agreed that should be done, even though it was slightly short of the speed metric. So I'm appreciative of that, but would request that that be detailed in the list and that be a prioritized list, depending on those studies, what they show. And second question on the funding, I know MAF has a pot for traffic calming. Has that been dipped into yet? And if so, how is that money being prioritized for this subject list?
Yeah, so we've taken advantage of the MAF funds for traffic improvements and safety. We've initiated that already. If we need to provide details as to how much, we have a list and a record of where we are in terms of each project coming council's way. So hopefully that provides some insights into where each project is and status.
Please include the MAF project for speed calming on that list as well. Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Farokh.
Commissioner, don't sit down just yet. On the same line of questioning that Councilmember Hillis raised, I appreciate that flag on his part on speed tables and traffic calming. When you provide the list of pending traffic calming projects, can you make sure they include both speed tables or traffic calming devices that have been legislated, as well as those that may have been included in district discretionary requests? Like, I know I have 5 or 6 streets for which there are speed tables pending through my discretionary dollars that I've not legislated because I was told to need to be legislated, but it'd be nice to know where those fit in the pipeline, in part because they're now 3 years old and we're still waiting on them.
And before others add to the list, if there's an opportunity for us to work with committee chair to make sure we have what's needed by request, and so that we can also balance the workload with staff, that'd be appreciative.
Yeah, I know you have a very good, remarkable memory, but I was going to ask who's taking notes on your team, or Mr. Overton is doing it as well.
Yes,
Okay.
we have staff here, and not to say we won't get that information, but it'd be nice to coordinate all the information requested by committee so that we can get that list to you.
So committee, actually, if we can work with our analyst, Mr. Overton, and he'll make sure he'll get it from the department to all of us on the committee. And all of,
I mean,
all
we're
of
on the
council,
record.
really.
I mean, if we need to give you a finer point, we can. I mean, it's a pretty simple request.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember One.
I would also, there are also speed tables that were funded by my predecessor, Jennifer Ide, that haven't, and not out of bond money, not out of initiative, but out of district money. So, I mean, now you know why we're so anxious about this, because there's a long, long list, and it would be nice to see. So, Mr. Overton, if you can add that as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Hillis.
Sit down while you can. Go ahead. Next item, sir.
Next item is item number 10, 24R4429. A resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Third Amendment to Agreement IFB-C-12100208, right-of-way maintenance with Brussels Landscape LLC on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to add funding in an amount not to exceed $343,573.70. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed, and for other purposes.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Got a speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Either Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner, just a status, first a general question. As I know there's a deviation between what DOT is handling and what DPW is handling. This is something that, given that my understanding is, there's a mutual effort to kind of hand over some stuff to DPW. Why something as simple as right-of-way maintenance is still under DOT, at least this part of it. So that's the general question. And the second question is, understanding this is the Third Amendment, where are we with taking this back out to bid, and what has been the performance of Russell, in your opinion?
So good morning, Council. Alan Smith, Deputy Commissioner, ATL DOT for the Maintenance Division. So Councilmember Hillis, you are correct. We have been having discussions with DPW over the last few months to talk about some of the services that overlap between our departments, primarily things like graffiti, right-of-way maintenance, bike lane sweeping, things like that. We have been exploring the option to transfer the services that we currently have that are for right-of-way maintenance of our gateways. So these are about 9 locations that are at the interchanges throughout the city that have been beautified over the last few years. Right now, we're deciding if this is something we want to keep in-house or if it makes more sense to hand it over to DPW since they're already operating in that capacity. In my opinion, Russell has been performing well. I know they also have had contracts with DPW that service other things, so I can't speak to that. But as far as the gateway maintenance, they have been handling what they need to handle.
Thank you for that, sir.
Motion has been made and seconded. I second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Colleagues, if you would, I would like to jump to our papers held in committee. To item number 28, the Transportation Department. I know that you're here as well. We have our Assistant Chief that is here. I'd like to get him back out into handling the business of the people instead of sitting here with us. So could you read the caption, please?
Mr. Chair, there is a request to substitute this item, and the substitute would change the caption.
Motion to substitute? Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is, sorry. Vote is open. Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Substitute item is before us.
This is item number 28, 24R4212, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis as substituted by Transportation Committee requesting that the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation amend Section 7, subsection D11 of the Administrative Regulations for Shareable Dockless Mobility Device 2021 annual permit holders to implement a citywide no-ride zone from the hours of 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. daily and for other purposes.
This paper was held last cycle. Is there any more conversation on this paper? What is a motion?
So the Department of Transportation requested to hold the paper because they heard something from the police department or the...
So Department of Transportation, as discussed in the last committee meeting, would like to have further discussions with our public safety officials to include data related to the extended hours, considering this happened during COVID, and other concerns around the hours.
Well, actually not during COVID. So I made sure I looked it up before we came in here. In 2017, we stopped because of 4 accidents on the Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. And during COVID, we actually increased the hours. This council did in 2022 in December. So we actually increased the hours during that time period. So I made sure I looked that up before we came. So we can have, I like to be more transparent and have the conversation here, like we said in the last meeting, to have the chief of police, to actually have the police department actually here to tell why, or I would like to move this paper forward. I've done enough research to see other cities have done it. I think as a city, we've done a lot of work around our infrastructure. Thankful to you for the upgrades in infrastructure, the bike lanes, protected bike lanes, the ways we can move around. So super thankful to the Department of Transportation and to our council member, Matt Westmoreland, who's on the ARC, who keeps coming back with more funding for bike lanes. So I'm thankful for you. Doing this, but I would like to know why they wouldn't want this to happen, because other cities are doing it. And you all requested that we put in this paper. I didn't come up with this. So I move that we, the Department of Transportation, I move that we support this motion.
So there's some, you sure you want to put the motion in right now?
Well, I hold.
Okay.
I'll second the
Oh,
we got a
motion has
second.
been made in second, so we're still in discussion because I see some other people lined up. So motion has been made in second. Our next speaker would be Councilmember Faroki.
Yeah, I second the motion because I remember Councilmember Lewis is right. In 2018, we had a handful of fatalities of scooter riders that happened at night. And even then, I thought it was a hasty decision to try and limit scooter riding at night. We weren't limiting bicycles on the road at night. We weren't limiting cars on the road at night. And we had a lot of workers in town who used the scooters to get to and from their jobs at hotels and restaurants after hours to get to MARTA and otherwise get home. So the logic never really held to me why we were banning one type of motor transportation at night when you had others that were equally vulnerable or equally dangerous. So I appreciate Councilmember Lewis's paper. I support his motion with a second and think it's appropriate to move it forward.
Thank you, Council. Vice Chair Overstreet.
Thank you. So I didn't hear the whole thing, but you said this paper was not really your idea. Tell me what.
people have reached out to the Department of Transportation and let them know that people are trying to rent scooters at certain times. And so this is a legislation that came to me from the folks that have been working over there.
Who was over there?
And that would be the Department of Transportation who supported this legislation at first.
Commissioner? So the reason I'm asking is because I'm really trying to get my bearing about the actual legislation. So if this, and I'm just understanding that, if this paper is born out of ATL-DOT and
their support for it.
And not his idea, like what's happening here?
So what we're hearing is there is engagement with council, obviously, around our operations, micromobility throughout the city. However, coordinating amongst our internal channels is very important. And once this legislation came about, some of those concerns came up.
So that's where I am. Like, so this legislation came out of ATL-DOT?
In coordination with council. Yes.
In coordination with you? I feel like Judge Judy.
No. I think we have everybody here who can talk to it. I think that this legislation, as council members, I feel super good about this legislation. Okay. I think that
that's why I really am trying to figure out, because you're still wanting to hold.
No, he's not wanting to hold the.
Oh no, he said yes. He did say that.
He does.
That's where this conflict, because you're the commissioner, right?
Yes.
And I want to make sure that, you know, I'm working with you as you know what I'm saying. So if this is something you want to hold, yet he's saying this was your idea, I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
So here we are. This has bubbled up to become a challenging issue since the first introduction. And if it's possible, we'd like to hold in coordination with council, just so that we can, as we spoke last time, have the time to coordinate with our public safety officials. And
I feel so good about this paper. I'll tell you why. I apologize.
Yeah. So I do want to hear from APD, because I want to hear from everybody at this point now, because I don't have a lot of scooter riders in my district per se, so I don't want to make a decision about areas that have heavy participation. Do you know what I mean? So I was just trying to understand your view on the whole thing. Deputy Chief Titus.
Hey, good morning. As Commissioner said, once it bubbled up to us, we did tell him we had concerns about it because we were just unaware of it.
Okay.
Again, when we start looking at scooter rider at after midnight, 2 a.m. in the morning, it just gives us concerns. Those scooters have historically been used in crime sometimes. There is a propensity for accidents. We know that people come and go to our districts and they use our entertainment district, and so drivers aren't aware. They are distracted. We did have a scooter fatality this year, and so really we wanted to just drill down on the data before we made an informed decision. Again, we're all about the connectivity and people using scooters, but we just see a different breed of people using those scooters after midnight. Okay. And to your point, a scooter on Campbellton Road at 1:30 in the morning is just not a good idea. A scooter on Metropolitan at 1:30 in the morning, it's just not a good idea. And those are the things we're looking at. People riding those scooters being injured. But again, we do have people that use those scooters once it becomes dark to commit crimes. And that's the data we want to drill down on with the commissioner so that we're all making an informed decision here.
And you think that 2 more weeks will make a difference in your decision?
Well, yes, because we want to just drill down on the data and just tell them we're looking at the issues we're having, and again, we just don't think it's a good idea to extend those hours. I don't, when we,
So you don't
when
think
we
2 weeks
encounter,
will make a
when we
difference?
encounter scooter riders, we're not really seeing workers riding scooters at 1:30 in the morning from a police standpoint.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm good.
Councilmember One.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I was the one who requested, I mean, this was, the restriction or the shifting of the time was based on a reason. And I asked, okay, since during this period from there to there, I mean, have we seen a reduction in accidents? And that is the data that I want before moving forward on this, because I don't want to undo this when we knew that the accident data had decreased and had part of the desired effect. So it sounds like you don't have that data for me today, correct?
We have fatality data. We don't have the data in terms of accidents today.
Okay. So is that researchable? I mean, can you
Yes.
get that?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I asked for 2 weeks ago, and if that's the case, then there's going to be unreadiness on my part, because I don't want us to enter into a decision without knowing that what the potential increase might be, because based on the reduction that we saw. And yeah, it's I'll just leave it at that. I think I appreciate Chief Tice. I appreciate your comments, but I agree with Councilmember Overstreet. It doesn't sound like it's a time data conversation. I think that's just the position APD has, and we're just going to factor that into whatever decision we make today. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Councilmember Faroki.
Yeah, I just want to push back on APD's statement. I think what I heard, I didn't hear all of it, so I may have missed some of it, but I heard at the end that we don't encounter folks who are riding home from work late at night. I submit to you those folks exist, but I would also submit to you, I'm curious how many encounters APD has with scooters, because the input I get from residents is very little. There's very little enforcement of scooter riding on the sidewalk. APD essentially washes hands of it because you have more important things to do. I don't disagree. There's more important things to do than issue warnings or citations for folks who are riding on a sidewalk. But if you're insinuating that the folks who are encountered at night, and you may not be insinuating this, I'm not suggesting as much, but that it's maybe just drunk folks getting home from a bar or a club, then show me the data on how many DUIs you guys have written for folks riding scooters, because you have that ability, just you have for writing those tickets for folks on bikes or cars, right? So the generalized statement you made made me a little bit exasperated, because I think we're playing favorites here on transportation modes that I think is unfair to residents and to workers who need to get around at night, when we're not being as discriminatory against other modes of transit that are equally vulnerable or equally dangerous. And so I appreciate Councilmember Lewis's legislation. Other cities have done this. The restrictive hour is a result of what I think was a knee-jerk reaction 6 years ago when we had some fatalities. But the data and the real-world kind of observation doesn't yield itself, in my mind, to limiting scooter riders to certain hours. And so that's just my comment and reaction to your reflections. Happy to hear any response you may want to offer.
And again, sir, maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. Not so much that we encounter the scooter riders who are doing nefarious stuff. It's just that when the police respond to them, most of the people that are on scooters that we interact with is because of a crime. Someone's being robbed. Someone said the person got away on a scooter, or we come up with curfew violators who flee from the police on scooters. So yes, again, we see the value of people using that mode of transportation, getting back and forth to work late at night. But the concern we're bringing is that the criminal element that uses those scooters late at night, because that's what we see at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Those are the people the police encounter.
I appreciate that. I would submit to you that the crime that's occurring late at night, those robberies, whatever it may be, the scooter is not the culprit there. That crime will likely happen, whether it's a car break-in, pickpocket, stealing someone's phone as they whiz by. That's happening whether you have scooters or not, right? Whether it's on bicycle, on foot, on car. And so I think focusing on scooters here as a tool of crime and not a tool of mobility, I just think is the wrong approach we should be taking.
And it's not a focus on the scooters at all. We're just saying those are what we're seeing. I mean, again, car break-ins, crime opportunities, we do see them using the scooters as a mode of escape on it. And so that is the concern we're raising. And that's why we spoke with the commissioner. So let's hold it and let's get factual data so that we can pull the data together to show that, okay, here's the crime we're seeing related to scooters and the downtown area and your district council member, District 12 or any District 2. And that's what we're saying, we're not going to pound on the table, we're going to pound on the facts. And I think that was why we asked for the hold.
Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you. And you said breed of people. What do you mean?
What's that?
You said the words breed of people that you see on the scooter. You said that
criminal element. People. I said the criminal element. That is what we're focusing on.
Okay. So are you saying that our police officers we can enforce the law on scooter? I also want to see the data to see how much interaction police officers are having with scooters. Riders, I would love to get that by the next transportation meeting. And you're saying that we can't enforce laws between those 2 hours?
Absolutely. And again, we enforce laws 24/7. What I'm saying is that there is a propensity for violence after dark with scooters.
Okay. And you
So
said
it doesn't go, from 2 a.m. We're just saying at midnight, it's going to, increase what we believe a crime element. And that's the data that we want to provide to the commissioner as you all are making this decision.
But where would you get that data from? Because we haven't had scooter riders in that time period. It doesn't exist. That's when you say.
What we're showing you is data after dark is what we're going to provide. Like, here's the data that we're seeing. Here's the crime that we're seeing committed with scooters. That is the data that we have, and that is what we're saying. If you extend those hours, it's going to extend those crimes.
And I'm gonna ask a couple of other questions because I know other cities are doing it. But when you say when I said breed of people, you said the kind. Can you give me the demographic of the breed of people that you're talking about?
There's no demographic, sir. It's a breed of people. As I said, criminals. People, a criminal element. There's no demographics of a breed of people. That criminal element, sir.
I'm glad we're on the same page right now. So you said breed of people on a scooter at night is not the type that going to work, not leaving work. That's what you said.
No, sir. I said that breed of people that's committing criminal elements are not people that are going back and forth to work. Those are the people we don't encounter. Councilmember Faroki made the comment that, the people were using the scooters. And I said, we're not focusing on people, law-abiding citizens that are riding a scooter. The data we're looking at deals with people that are using scooters to commit crime. And that is where we're standing with that. We're saying that there's a criminal element that uses scooters.
I'm glad I heard you again. So you said the data that you're looking at is the data that people are using committing crimes. Could you compare that to the data? Just to make sure we're comparing data, right? Same hours.
So again, sir, what we're saying is that we want to provide that data to the commissioner so that we all can have an informed conversation about it, sir.
I want to make sure I ask for the exact kind of data I would like to see. The same time periods of scooters being rented in the city to compare the percentage of people actually using it for crimes versus the percentage of people using it for other things. So I would like to see the data from the scooter dockless mobility devices that shows that. That way they can tell us how many, like there are 100 people using the scooter and less than 0.3% are committing crimes. I want to know that data because that wouldn't be a good enough reason for me. The next thing we said around the breed of people, next thing we said was the other states are able to do this. So New York City, City of Phoenix, they're able to extend their hours. What are they doing? And is there any kind of way we can reach out to them to find some best practices so that we can do what they're doing as a police department?
Absolutely. As you know, the city of Atlanta is unique as we deal with stuff, but we always look at best practices, sir.
Is that unique?
Best practices?
I said the city of Atlanta is that unique to where New York, Philadelphia, D.C., Phoenix, Arizona, and even a smaller city in Richmond, Virginia, have extended their hours. So we're so unique that
again, sir, I can't advise why they extended their hours. I'm simply telling you the concerns we're raising as it reports to extending the hours, sir.
And I think my question is, are we so unique that we can't manage it and they can?
Not saying we can't manage it, sir. At the risk of sounding redundant, what I'm saying is that we have concerns with extending the hours.
And so I'll let him speak and I'll come back after that.
Councilmember Broken.
Yeah, I mean, you keep making statements that don't hold water, and I know it's not always productive to get in this back and forth, but what you're asserting is either implied or directly discriminatory to folks in the city. And I want to push back on two things you said. One was this notion that Atlanta is unique. Look, I know we like to think of ourselves as exceptional, and part of that's political posturing. And there are things we are exceptional about, but this is a reality that happens in cities big and small across the country that have scooters. We're not unique in this way. This is just city life in 2024. And so I don't think that we have unique circumstances with scooter riding at night that doesn't exist in other American cities that have taken a more logical approach. The second is you indicated that APD's view is that scooters are being used by a criminal element. That's true of cars. That's true of bicycles. That's true of your own 2 feet. When I have a drive-by shooting on Boulevard, APD isn't standing here telling me we need to ban cars between the hours of 10 and 12 because there was a drive-by. It's because there's a understanding that the car is not at fault there. That was just a mechanism that someone used to commit a crime. And the same applies to scooters here. And I think Councilmember Lewis made this point that I think needs to be doubled down on, is that when the restriction on hours was made 2018, it wasn't because of crime, it was because it was a safety concern. And even then I think it was the wrong public policy decision. But to now say it's crime, even though, again, it's just a mode of transportation, without any data supporting it, just a kind of a gut feeling, I think is...
Again, sir, that's why we wanted to just provide data. We're saying from our point of view, we see scooters involved in crimes, and so we wanted to provide him with the correct data. That is all we're saying, sir, that if we're going to make a decision, let's make an informed decision. We want to provide him with the data and show him what the data shows from our point, from a public safety point of view. Again,
Well,
we
let's
applaud
be
those
clear
modes
then on
of
what data is
transportation.
going to be provided to...
So what we would provide him with just data from scooter-involved incidents, crime related.
Fine.
That is
Then
all
I
we
would
would
also
provide
request
him.
you provide vehicle-related crime incidents to DOT as well.
Sure.
Bicycle-related crime incidents to DOT as well. And non-vehicle committed crimes, right? Pickpockets, whatever it may be on 2 feet. Because again, I think we're focusing on the wrong thing in this conversation. And if we're going to have crime data, let's not cherry pick the crime data that we think is going to shape the debate on this public policy issue. Let's look at all modes of transportation and how they impact crime. Because I think it's irrelevant to this conversation. And I represent a district that probably has a disproportionate number of scooter rides in the city. I have complaints all the time from folks. It's not about crime. It's about them being left on the sidewalk or people riding on the sidewalk, which is the latter of which is the purview of APD to enforce that law, which enforcement almost never happens. And so, I have plenty of folks saying, get these scooters off the streets. I also have folks saying, I use a scooter every day to get to and from work, whether rented or my own personal scooter. And if we could have that same conversation about all modes of transit. So I think we should have an honest conversation about intersection of modes of mobility and crime and whether it should be applicable to this simple request to extend hours, like you could ride a bike or drive a car in the city. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. And
Thank
we'll
you.
provide that information, sir.
Thank you. I see we've been joined by Deputy Chief of Staff. You want to speak on this issue, or please?
Sure. Theo Pace, Deputy Chief of Staff, Office of the Mayor. I'll wait until any questions or comments from Councilmember Dozier and Councilmember Lewis, but I do want to add that 2 weeks ago, did make a request to Councilmember Lewis to hold this item so that we could talk, because when it was introduced, I don't know if the Department of Transportation or Atlanta Police Department was aware that the legislation was being introduced. Some of these questions that are coming up now, I believe, could have been handled a little bit more differently had it been known prior to the legislation being introduced. Of course, the council has the liberty to introduce whatever they want, when they want, but I think a more thoughtful conversation could have been had, or at least the department's made aware prior to the legislation being introduced. Some of these questions coming up today.
Thank you. Next speaker is Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to state for the record, I support my colleagues to the right. I recognize that this legislation, will allow for scooter operation until 2 o'clock in the morning. I personally am of the mindset, I don't know why we even limit at all, considering that people are moving to and from their destinations at all hours of the day. However, as things stand, I support this legislation as written. I also recognize that in committee you can't call the question, but I'm ready to vote, and I would like to move to call a question if we can, but I know the parliamentarian is not here to.
Oh, we don't need it.
But I support this legislation. Thank you.
So we can call the question in committee, not in committee? Okay. Okay, so we continue unless Councilmember Lewis would like not to speak and move forward with his motion. You have the floor.
After this passes, God willing, after this passes, other cities have worked on different things with these shared mobile owners like Lime and Lyft, and what they've been able to do is, I want to make sure that we know this, they have a reaction test through the app after certain times to make sure people, if they are, inebriated, they have age requirements on the app to make sure after a certain time people can't do it. But that's stuff that the transportation department can work on with them. This is a resolution requesting that the transportation department can work on this. It's not even saying do it. It's a resolution saying what they can do. So once again, thank you.
There's a motion that's been put on the floor, and second, I believe the amended has been supported by a motion that has been made in second, I believe. So the amended item is before us. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Wow.
Wow. So the motion, the favorable motion did not carry. So it will remain held in committee. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that.
Mr. Chair, we do need to get an opinion on that. I think.
Okay. So we need clarification and confirmation on abstentions versus votes. So we're good?
Yeah, it failed.
Okay, so it did not carry. So Councilmember Lewis.
Wait,
You still speaking?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So the reason why I abstained was I asked for data 2 weeks ago. I'm asking for it again, and had it moved forward, I would just want it by Monday. But if this isn't going to move, let's have it by next cycle. And the specific data that I'm looking at has less to do with the crimes, but the actual accidents. You said you have the fatality, but let's get the accident data for that period and compare it to before we did the original time restriction, because I just want to move. I need that data point before I can move forward.
Thank you. Vice Chair Overstreet.
My extension is because I do want to hear from, more. Believe it or not, I do want to hear more, because I didn't hear any resolution today, to be honest. I just hear circles of, this is what I think, this is what the APD is providing, and then you're disagreeing with. I just don't hear a resolution at all. And I don't want to weigh in on an issue that is not prevalent in my district. It's just not. And so I really didn't think that we were going to have abstentions, to be honest. I thought it was going to be me. So, that's what. It's not that I do or don't agree with any of it. I just want to make sure that the right people are having the right conversations.
Well, I think that the administration did try to meet with Councilmember Lewis last week. That did not occur. Transportation and APD are ready and willing to sit down with the council member to discuss the.
Okay, well, it looks like we have 2 more weeks to get that done. And I would also like to add something, it's kind of similar. A couple years ago, someone told me that other cities have a geofence and the city of Atlanta doesn't. So cities like Chicago refuse to even have scooter riders because they require a geofence. And so what's happening is a lot of those companies are being dumped into Atlanta because we don't have a geofence for our scooters. So I do understand that part, in that there are some other things that we can be doing to make sure that our scooters are properly enforced, but it still has nothing to do with these 2 hours.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So there are a couple things that I would actually weigh in on. This is probably not it. Okay.
Okay, I know we got 2 council people willing to speak, but before we do that, just got final word and clarification on abstentions and yay votes and nay votes. Abstentions act more as an away vote, and because it had more yay votes, this passes. It's favorable. So just got the final word. So it will go to council, and we will address it there. Don't know if my fellow 2 colleagues want to finish speaking or
Yeah, I
move
just
on. Okay.
to add on to, and I'm happy to talk about the geofence conversation. It's part and parcel of the program today, but I'm happy to talk about the limits of it in Atlanta and why it hasn't been as effective as we'd hoped. The Councilmember Wan's request on data, I would, if you're going to, I assume Councilmember Wan's request for data now holds, but he wants it by Monday. I would add to that request, if we're going to get data on scooter accidents or accidents involving scooters, 2 subsets of data. One is all scooter accidents, not just those that happen at night, because I would guess they happen more during the day than at night, just because there's more scooter rides during the day, and whether they involve a vehicle interaction with a motor vehicle or not, or it's just, someone crashes and they report it for some reason. And then 2, the same data for motor vehicle incidents. Thank you.
Next and final speaker, Councilmember Lewis.
Yeah, and I speak as a avid scooter rider who's actually fell off a scooter. As most of my colleagues know, I couldn't walk for about 30 days. The reason I fell was because of a pothole in the road. I understand that other cities, that when we travel, all we see is people on suits and scooters because they've done the transportation infrastructure work to make sure it happens. Councilmember Overstreet, with what you're about to do down Calverton Road, that safe street, you're about to see scooter riders, you're about to see millennials and every generation in the world riding down Calverton Road on scooters, and they're going to want it at all time periods because I'm one of them, right? And so I appreciate you for being open to this. I appreciate my colleagues for being open to this, but this is something we can get done. This is something that if we have the proper training with our police department, if they look at what other departments are doing across the city, across this country, we can do what they're doing if we have the proper training. Thank you again. And also, the administration can talk amongst each other. The administration this came from the administration can talk. The transportation department can talk to APD. I'm following their lead. I just want to open this up. I think that they meet all the time. They're both a part of the same cabinet. And so they can talk and meet at any time. They know where I am on this. Thank you again.
I think that moves us back to our regular scheduled agenda, item number 11.
Item number 11, 24R4430, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to execute Amendment 1 to the Path 400 Trail Project Management Agreement with the Path Foundation Incorporated, a Georgia nonprofit corporation, for the Path 400 Trail from Floridians Drive to the City of Sandy Springs limits in an amount not to exceed $1,100,000 $67,092.00, and authorizing the execution of all necessary agreements associated with the project to include but not limited to project framework, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and mowing and maintenance agreements, and for other purposes. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
You know, before I make this motion, I see Assistant Chief Tyus left. I just wanted to say thank you to him and the brave men and women on the police department for the situation we had yesterday on 14th Street. So definitely want to say thank you and keeping them always in our prayers. So on item number 11, motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is
Item
closed.
is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 12, 24R4431, a resolution by Transportation Committee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to amend Resolution 24R3620, adopted by Atlanta City Council on May 20th, 2024, and approved by operational law on May 29th, 2024, by adding an additional funding source and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Seeing no discussion, open the vote.
Vote is open. Can all council members please vote? Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 13, 24R4432, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to establish the City of Atlanta Americans with Disability Act Advisory Committee in accordance with Section 3-401 of the City of Atlanta Charter and pursuant to the settlement of the case of Laurel Lawson et al. Versus City of Atlanta in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, Civil Action File number 118-CV/02484, to provide recommendations on improvements to the City of Atlanta's current accessibilities for persons with disabilities and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion has been made and second. Do have a discussion. Someone from Law Department at ADOT. I did ask this question during our briefing. With what we heard in public comment today, how would this help those citizens and get recommendations to move us forward?
Yes, so Solomon Cavanis, ATL DOT Commissioner. So this is a requirement as part of our Lawson settlement, and this will make sure that we're in compliance with the terms of the settlement, and we've already started the work to improve ADA throughout the city as it relates to District 12 and some of the concerns we heard earlier. There's substantial investment going in District 12. There has been since the Renew program. I will speak with Councilmember Lewis as it relates to some of those improvements. But this just makes sure that we're in compliance as the City of Atlanta with the Lawson settlement.
Thank you. Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. Understanding since the settlement that this would need to be established to be in compliance, supportive of this, but is there anything in the settlement that this commission is actually tasked with doing? What will they be doing in their meetings? I understand, I would assume you will be in receipt of their suggestions or approvals or disapprovals, but what does ATL DOT either tend to do with that or is required to do with that as part of the settlement?
So we're mandated to address ADA deficiencies throughout the city over a 25-year period, and the commission and we have a monitor that's been brought on as part of the settlement to make sure that we are staying on track. Our actions are consistent with the settlement. So this is part of the process as agreed upon by both parties. And the investment that we're making into addressing the deficiencies throughout the city.
All right, well, I'm sure this council will work extremely quickly to staff this base just like it does the other hundreds that we have.
Thank you, Councilmember Juan.
So kind of in keeping with what the public comment folks were saying, and actually just something we're hearing all the time, I think y'all need to be prepared that when these recommendations come back, that we've got the funding lined up. Because I would imagine once we get the findings, the city is officially on notice in terms of our deficiencies or potentially on notice. So get ahead of that. Let's not wait for the recommendations. Let's figure out how we're going to fund some of these sidewalks, some of these intersection improvements, because I'm sure that was really the intent of the settlement and the formation of this. So just like I said, get ready.
Thank you for those comments, Councilmember.
Thank you. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 14, 24R4433, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and if awarded accept grant funding from the U.S. Department of Transportation fiscal year 2024 low carbon transportation materials grant program in an amount not to exceed $15 million and 0 cents on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for the purpose of establishing a process to provide funding for the use of construction materials that have sustainability lower levels of greenhouse gas emissions and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, item number 15, 24R4434, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an encroachment agreement with MCI Metro Access Transmission Services, LLC, for the installation and attachment of 2-inch fiberglass reinforced plastic conduit to house 1-864 CT microfiber optic cable on or underneath the Collier Road Bridge in the Collier Road right-of-way located at 490 Collier Road, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The item is favorable. That takes us out of resolution. Since the paper held on committee, we have already handled that paper, so I think we stand adjourned.